All right.
Including this part, by
Yep.
the way. Oh my god.
All right, so welcome back to another podcast. This is Kevin. He is one of our hosts, and I'm Adrin. I am your other co-host. All right, so we were Kevin a few days ago called me up. Well, he sent me a message, and he asked what do you have any ideas for this week's podcast? And I was quite curious, because actually last week I wanted to bring this up, but we had so many other things to talk with our guest Hal. The UFO sightings that the Pentagon released, the footage is quite interesting to see. Like the news, it wasn't that big of a deal with all this COVID-19. A lot of people were like, "Oh, okay, UFOs." And I thought, it might be an interesting topic to discuss this week because now that we have so much time in our lives, we can think about some events and quite possibilities with existence of UFOs, aliens, and just interesting mystery stuff. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. So
Hal ain't want to talk about no alien stuff.
no, he didn't. That's why. Plus, I completely just forgot about it. I was gonna mention it, but I was like, we already talked about so many other stuff. And if I was to introduce the alien stuff, it would have been like 3 podcasts in one. So
No, it was actually shorter than the first one.
it was actually, yeah.
One, because that's what I was attempting to do. That's why I cut out the last part. Yeah, so the Pentagon released UFO sightings. I think there were only 3. Well, the thing is it definite proof of aliens? No, never. Always conspiracy theories and the mystique around Area 51 in general. It's just people making up rumors or they're just making an interesting story for something they don't know about. And just because you don't know it, people often assume oh, it's aliens. Just because we don't know what that flying object is, it's aliens. Not a good what do you call it?
Practice.
Cognitive bias.
Mentality. That is true. As humans, that's the thing I was actually discussing with my dad. I was like, just because there are flying objects that we can't identify, it doesn't mean they're necessarily or aliens. It could just literally be a helicopter or a plane that just hasn't been registered to the there's that thing, I'm not really sure exactly what it's called, because you see, obviously all airlines have a certain connection to a certain place. I don't know what it's called, but the point is, if someone doesn't know what it is, it's probably because it's there without authorization, or it just, to our eyes, it just looks like it's weird. But if it actually is aliens, then I guess we'd never know until we actually go and say hi, hello,
There's many different things you can think about. For example, if aliens are already here, why don't we know that we're here? Maybe they're already among us. Maybe they're the ones who brought us technology in the first place. Maybe they aren't here, and if they are observing us, why would they come and talk to us? Things like that. It's sort of observing hello monkeys, little monkeys.
Yeah. That was an interesting thing, is that the aliens are the ones who introduced the COVID-19 to us. I read an article like that. That was so funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but it's an interesting perspective to think that they were giving us a chance to restart our lives as civilization. It is an interesting way. It's but the fact of what Kevin said just now, what you brought upon by saying maybe they're already living with us and amongst us, and maybe they're the ones who introduced these technologies. There was an interesting thing I read. There was this one book, I completely forgot. I'll go back to it on the book recommendation section, but where it was discussing these rituals and these ancient civilizations that existed before our before we could perceive it. And they were supposedly more enhanced and more advanced in terms of I'm not sure if it's technology, but they were just more advanced in many other ways that we haven't reached at this point. And there were these pillars that were being built actually in I'm not sure which mountain it is, but I think it's in Africa. There's this mountain. No, it's in India. Damn it. It's in India. There's this mountain, And if you could look from the backside, there's this huge pillar. And when I say huge, I mean like it's the depth of a sea. The human is like a little
What?
dot.
Depth
And
of the sea.
like
Nice.
you know the height of the pillar, that's how it was. And it's you can see very clearly that it was built by man, or it was built by something, because there are these structures that are being built using those pillars, and it's just huge. It's literally impossible. It would take like decades for us to build it now. And so it's interesting to see that these things exist from these what do you call them, like archaeology. Archaeologists went and found these kind of stuff and have it on books and stuff. It's an interesting topic which I was actually looking into. I mean, maybe those were introduced
Yeah,
by
it's like-
ancient civilizations.
It's pretty unexplained as to how they were able to make that much, make those kind of advancements with the technology they had at the time. It doesn't seem possible if we were to try and explain it, but somehow, it could be an explanation. It could be explained by aliens or some sort of higher power that came by and provided us with knowledge or technology. But at the same time, like Occam's razor, right? Is it Occam's razor? Like the simplest answer is most likely the correct one, and it's probably not aliens, if we were to be honest, but it's just the same thing as magic. The idea of magic is just unexplained science. If you go back and you bring your phone or your gun or I don't know, like a projector or something, or a laser, they think you're some kind of wizard or witch if you go back in time. It's just unexplained and unknown, and you just tend to think of it as something that's something that's crazy or impossible, even though you just don't understand what the underlying principles behind such a contraption or phenomenon is. It's a sort of a fallacy, just because you don't know what it is, then it's instantly this. Like, I don't remember what it's called. Some
That's
sort of
where
logical
conspiracies
fallacy or
come from,
cognitive
really.
bias. Well, kind of. Yeah, but I think conspiracies are like people sort of like linking things, maybe not. Well, they could be true, but you never know, right?
I mean, yeah, I think that's what makes them conspiracies, the fact that it can't be proven with factual evidence. I mean, that another thing that goes on to these conspiracies is like, especially relating with aliens, is an interesting one that has been. Well, there's obviously the Bermuda Triangle, which is like this secret area where anything that enters it never leaves it, and we really can't observe what's going on there. But I mean, at the same time, there are other people saying, well, that's because it's a secured area, like Area 51. Bermuda Triangle is an area that the U.S. government is doing some stuff with it. And then there's other people who are saying there's a huge sea monster in Bermuda Triangle. That's why everything is going.
I think Bermuda Triangle is just a coincidence, like, honestly.
It could be. I mean, that's the thing with these kind of unexplained phenomenons. We just tend to make these assumptions, but we would really
also
we really
confirmation
don't know.
bias, right?
Yeah, confirmation
So
bias,
because
definitely.
people are like, oh, it's the Bermuda Triangle, and then they're like, as soon as they see something like, oh my god, this ship like exploded in Bermuda Triangle, we don't know what happened. Like, they're like, oh, this is obviously like an area that we don't know what to screw with. But turns out like the other week, like 5 ships made it past that area, no problem, and they just completely ignored that evidence because they just want the the cool story or the mystique of the Bermuda Triangle to exist.
And another interesting observation that a lot of people have made is that the Pyramid of Giza, it's literally, if you look at the top of the Pyramid of Giza, it is pointing to the Orion, the 3 stars. It's quite interesting because it's exactly the same shape. It's aligned with it. And a lot of people say that's the optimum area for aliens to give information from outer space, and that's how they built their organization. It's interesting. No, it's really interesting to see these kind of stuff.
This is just conspiracy and people lining up things that don't. It's like correlation is not causation. So it's like the amount of a person consumes rises as the same as the rate of divorce decreases, something like that. Like Mr. Oldfield said. But like, in reality, it doesn't make any sense because there's no connection between the two.
Yeah. True. I mean, I guess like I think one of the main reasons some conspiracies actually we tend to be like, wait, that actually kind of makes sense. It's because like if you think about it, some explanations kind of make sense, but not necessarily through causation, but just through correlation. You know what I mean? Like we just think about it, and we're like, actually, what if the U.S. government is holding a site in Bermuda Triangle? I mean, actually, you could, because it's happened elsewhere. There's Area 51. There's other places. So like again, goes back to confirmation bias. It's possible that we actually think that conspiracy theories could change the way we think.
Well, it's more of like I think people have this this enjoyment for mystery and those kind of stories and like uncovering these kind of things. So it just plays into like the cognitive biases and everything. But honestly, some of these conspiracies might as well be true. I don't know why this turned into a talk about conspiracies anyways. Like, for example, like the Freemasons, that's really like scary, like honestly. Especially when when I watch a couple of videos and stuff. But I these days I just tend to ignore like the conspiracies because, or like flat Earth. If you think about it, like if the flat Earth conspiracy was real, like don't think about like the science, like because people can just make up random science that sort of supports their point for no reason, like gravity doesn't exist, so what keeps us down? The land is just accelerating 9.81 meters per second up. That doesn't make any sense. But like if you think about it, their whole core argument is that everybody, like all the scientists around the world, governments, everybody is lying to you. So how likely in reality is that? Is that very likely? No.
I mean,
like considering the human race, like there's probably gonna be like that 5% who doesn't conform, no matter what. So you're gonna have at least, like 5% of scientists who say like, the Earth is flat, if it actually is. There's gonna be those people who actually go against the oppression, but we don't see that, so it doesn't really make sense. Flat Earth.
That actually made me think of the Truman Show. That film? Jim Carrey.
Yeah, but why? How is that connected?
No, because what you said is everyone around the world.
Like everybody knows. Yeah.
But and it was an interesting thing. Just for a TV show, they made this whole fake reality. It could very well be true. I mean, the thing is, Kev, we have other people going out to the space and taking photos and stuff. But have we gone out into space? You know what I mean? Like the moment we as individuals go and witness it.
What are you? What?
No. I'm just saying.
Are you flat Earth?
No, of course I'm not flat Earth. I'm not that dumb. The thing is, no offense to flat Earth believers.
But question to a degree of reasonable. Question to a reasonable degree, like maybe like questioning whether the Earth is flat or not. I mean, in some senses, it does make sense, like through a sort of like philosophical lens, because when you look at things through the philosophical lens, you start to get into like, is everything real? Are we living in a simulation? Is it just you who's the actual person living? Everything around you is just being simulated. If you look somewhere behind you, is there nothing there? Just because you can't see it, does it not exist when you don't see it? Different kind of things like that. And it makes sense in that kind of lens.
Well,
I have no idea. Maybe we'll go back to this another time. Yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. Like considering all the things that I've learned, all the things that I've questioned, that the Earth is somehow flat and everybody's lying to us. It just doesn't line up with my sense of logic or reasoning.
Mm-hmm. Well, that completely makes sense. But going back to aliens, like, I mean, an interesting way of looking at this is Captain Marvel, where the I'm not sure what they're called, but those green peep things who can just look like human beings. That's an interesting perspective, especially when we realize that could very well be true. And we in a day and age where we can do cloning and we could do like changing the way our face looks.
Cloning isn't.
I mean, I'm not. Well, it's been done to. Right? It's been done to rodents and animals.
But there's two things, right? There's a biological clone and there's a instance clone, or that's what I like to call it, because it's a clone of an instance of a being. So basically, that kind of clone is a copy of the position and momentum of every single subatomic particle of a being, and then recreating that such that it's in the same state when it comes out. So you have two copies of the exact same thing. But there are many problems with something like that. For example, you have the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where you can't even tell just
where they are,
just by the state of quantum states in general, that you can't know exactly the momentum and position of a subatomic particle at the same time, because as you get more sure about one thing, you get more unsure about the other thing. And that means if you can't determine the exact position and momentum of every single subatomic particle, then you can't create an instance clone. But you can make a biological clone, which is taking the DNA of the subject and then basically creating a new creature that is born again, which I don't know, also has its sort of problems, because the cells already accelerated decay, that kind of things. So there are still a lot of problems to go with cloning, but yeah, I don't know, a lot of ethical issues as well. Like, do we treat them as humans? Are they humans? I assume they are, but
Yeah. I think that's where the issues mainly come in, especially when it attacks cultures and traditions. But in the evolution of science, it is quite an interesting and fascinating thing. But I mean, like, even if we did have aliens, I assume it wouldn't be exposed to the public immediately, of course. Some organizations or governments would probably keep it, like, in places such as Area 51. And I'm not saying this as a conspiracy, but it is how countries and governments work. Because if there's something that will ruin their economy, it's mass hysteria. And already COVID-19 is messing up the economy all over the world. And if you just come up and say there's aliens, people are going to go mad. And just to prevent that, they will have like these facilities who just facilitate these aliens and see, like, do some just like test them and see what are these guys doing. And they could have been doing that.
That's assuming that the aliens are less intelligent than us.
Yeah, exactly. And
what could have been going on is the governments are hiding the aliens because they don't want. So there's the whole thing about this conspiracy is that the people are basically scared that the government are suddenly going to go like crazy and start oppressing people, like dystopia, everything. So basically they're in control of all the organizations, all the power, technology, everything. So they're hiding all the alien stuff because the alien stuff is pretty powerful, technology is strong, and then they can just basically like oppress the people and then become rulers of the world. That's sort of like the conspiracy theory and the allure in it, and such that if we know like we can do something against it, that's sort of the allure. But I don't know, conspiracy theories are, we can talk about whether aliens actually exist, and the answer is we haven't really found aliens. We have tried communicating, like through the golden disc, whatever, sending signals and everything. So actually, there are some.
I was gonna go back to that signal thing. I saw.
Yeah, there are some signals we've received, but we don't know whether they're aliens or whatever. Not explained. There's this thing called like the great filter, which the idea is that either we're gonna encounter something, something, I don't know what it is, whatever it is, something is like a barrier to life that sort of filters everything out, like kills the species, you know, in the future, or that we've already passed such a filter. And those are the two possibilities. I think, like, I don't know, someone went through this, like, that it's either we're the lucky ones who passed the great filter and didn't end up dying, you know, killing ourselves off through the filter, or we are about to approach that filter. And I think, I don't remember who exactly, but they talked about it, which one was more likely and which one was like sort of better in terms of a case scenario for us. So that's something interesting to think about.
That is definitely. And I mean, I was just going to talk about the signals we received and stuff, like, and the thing is, I mean, going back to physics and all, it is an infinite universe out there, and if we are one being out of an infinite
one species,
one species, is there a possibility that there's much more than just us? And it doesn't even have to be. The thing about aliens is people misunderstand this. It's not just. It doesn't have to be like two green things with two big eyes. An alien is just any living organism that is not identified by us. Like is not from this Earth. That's just what an alien
is. Not native to the Earth.
Yeah.
Well, it could just be like some microorganism. That's still an alien.
Yeah, it's still an alien, and a lot of people misunderstand that when they're like, "Oh, aliens have been found." It's not like these big people will come in and say, "I want your Earth" or nothing. It's not like that. It's just an organized organism that isn't from Earth. And I have seen a few. I follow this page on Twitter and as well as on Instagram where they go on like Mars rovers and. They find these new information. They find, like, you know, those rovers go around and they get these samples and stuff. And there were a few samples that they took that had some traces of, like, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was amoeba or some kind of cell organism, which is like needed for a basis of life, right? And I was like,
that there was. It's possible that there was early signs of life that developed on those planets, but they got killed off or something.
That's another interesting conspiracy theory, is that Mars was like Earth a long time ago, and we all lived and we all did the same thing, and then we killed each other off.
And they were the aliens that provided us with the technology, but then they died.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. No, but
or they moved somewhere else because the planet was inhabitable. Anyways.
Yeah. That's the thing. Oh yeah, that's inhabitable Earth. That's a great segue to another thing I was thinking. See, there's this thing in NASA, Kepler's mission. Kepler is basically this individual.
Kepler Syndrome? No,
not I don't think it's the Kepler Syndrome. It's Kepler's
Kepler Syndrome.
It's a science. I'm not sure what that is. I should check it out. It's basically Kepler's an individual.
Kessler Syndrome, huh?
Kepler is an individual who basically wanted to find habitable Earths, and that was his program, that was his mission. So they've been sending these signals out to the whole of outside our galaxy, and they found a lot of planets that are possibly habitable with similar criteria that the Earth follows. And they're like, well, if this is habitable and it has all the key things it needs for us to live in it, the question that arises here is, what if there are already existing organisms that are living on that planet? A part of what we need is existing organisms that live, because there's stuff like there's a food, I'm not really sure what it's called. It's like a really, really small moving thingy. It's like a crab, or no, like a prawn kind of thing. A plankton, I think that's what it's called. A plankton?
Krill?
A krill, yes, krill.
I thought you were...
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of the most important things you need in let's say in the ocean for any organism to sustain, in order for us to be able to eat or to live with. And it's been said that it's possible that the Earths and that these planets could have them, because they have similar atmospheric pressure. They have similar structure and similar core. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure on what the specific details are, but I mean, just the thought about these stuff is really interesting to see. And
Well, So the most interesting part, like, about this whole like communication or attempt to communicate with other species, there are big problems with it. Namely, time scale, the relative length of a species' existence versus the existence of the universe itself. The universe is, I would say, supposedly the whole time scale is infinite. The amount of time a species exists is limited, and then there's also the problem of like sending signals to places that are light years away, which will take a long time to get sent. So the problem is like, will we miss the window in which the species in that area actually still exists? You know what I'm saying? So the signal could be sent to a time when the species is already dead or doesn't exist yet. And same thing with like receiving a signal. Even if they received the signal, there's no guarantee that we'd be alive to receive the signal.
Or we already received
them,
it, a long time ago. That it's a case of
or they were just like us and they sent us a signal, but way back.
Yeah.
Something like that. And also you said like Kepler, like that reminded me of the Kessler Syndrome, which is a very big problem, which is like a bunch of dust and like small debris floating around the Earth. So the problem is here, like it's forming a sort of like force field around the Earth, such that it's just basically like very fast traveling debris that rotates around the Earth. And basically, if any rocket tries to leave it, and the debris just like smashes into the rocket, it does a lot of damage. So, and then that creates more debris, and then the debris keeps crashing into other debris and other satellites and everything. Eventually, it will exponentially get worse and more difficult for us to leave the Earth. So that's another problem that I think scientists are trying to address in regards to like space travel and all.
There was this Chinese movie that I watched. I never watched Chinese films, but I was on the airplane, and there was this very interesting one. I'm not sure what it's called. It's where there's this where they're moving away from the Earth, and it's a film about that process. It's very interesting. It's called The Wandering Earth. That's what it's called. So they're literally like they're on these. How and I'm not sure if you watched Interstellar. I'm still upset that you haven't. I'll come back to that about recommended movies. But there's this film, The Wandering Earth, came out last year. It's literally just these people building giant thrusters to move the planet out of the orbit of the sun to a new star system.
Bruh.
That's literally the thing.
What?
They're not moving planets, they're moving the planet.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
I don't know the physics about it. It doesn't seem possible, but it was an interesting film.
Where's the energy gonna come from?
No. There's actually a very good explanation to that. I'm not. They've done something about it.
Energy to supply that whole thing.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. That film. It's an interesting one.
Oh my god. There's also like the Drake equation, which calculates the probability of aliens existing and stuff. So it's like the amount of inhabitable planets multiplied by blah 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 multiplied by blah blah blah, and essentially you could calculate the probability of aliens existing. Although I haven't explored much about the Drake equation, so that's mentioned in Big Bang Theory.
That's where I've heard that from. I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this somewhere. Yeah. Yeah,
and then they used it to find hot single women in their area instead of aliens.
So guys, if you see that ad, make sure to click on it. It works.
What are you talking about, dude?
The ad you get. Find women in your area.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, no.
That's just you, man. Anyway. Okay, we'll move on to the next segment, the physics thing. It's your turn. You do it this time. You can start.
So, a realization, eh? I guess it really does link into
the big brain segment.
Yeah, the big brain segment. I guess we've discussed it throughout the
Right.
whole thing, that we only know what we think we know, right? But there's so much out there that we haven't, or we can't comprehend, such as aliens existing and them giving us information that we need, the existence of potential. I'm just gonna go up and say some random what is it? Some theories like the multiverse theory. These kind of stuff, like it's possible that it's out there, and there's stuff beyond that that we just can't comprehend. And that realization on that own,
something.
that realization that there's always going to be a limitation to the amount of things that we can comprehend and understand, is kind of depressing. If you
That's
think
true.
about it.
There's a human limit.
There is a human limit.
Well, the thing that, like what you reminded me of was like there's like I guess 3 or 4 segments of knowledge, I would say. Like one is what we know. The second is what we don't know that we know. The third is what we know we don't know, and the fourth is what we don't know that we don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I've seen that circle somewhere online. I've seen it.
So there's this philosophical question, like whether we'll be able to even understand like so let's say knowledge is limited, right? It's like a progress bar, right? So assume that knowledge is limited, it's a progress bar. So the question is like whether we can't complete the whole progress bar because of our biological limit, because we are human, because we're beings, we're not omnipotent, blah 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 blah, and whether that rest of the progress bar can only be reached by ascending. Thus maybe in the future we would go towards things like that by implanting our brain, uploading our brain into like machinery, things like that, becoming immortal. I don't know, it's just something interesting to think about in the philosophical sense.
Yeah, and definitely that's the realization that I tend to have, is like you just some people have this sense of wanting to know a lot more, just wanting to have so much knowledge. And soon you realize the more you learn, you'll realize the more you don't know. And after you realize that, you'll just get, it will just break you, because we have that need of wanting to be the best at everything. It's a humane thing. And when we realize that that's not possible, it will break people. And
that's what it's it's some kind of paradox. Can you Google it?
Yeah. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah, Dunning-Kruger paradox, Dunning-Kruger effect, whatever. So basically, like, noobs, they think they're great, right? So, they're like, wow, I know so much about this subject. When you're in elementary school and all math is just like subtraction, addition, multiplication, division, you think you're some like hot shot. You're like, I can do all of this, math is easy, but you don't know like all of the intricacies that goes on later, differentiation, integration, 3-dimensional calculus, like it just goes on, right? You don't know about all of that. But somebody who knows more realizes how much they don't know. So like, for example, as a physicist, I've learned many things, right? But I realized that there are still many questions, many things that I will either never find the answers to, or that I'm still far off. And so, it's this like, people who are novice tend to overestimate their abilities, and people who are experts tend to underestimate their abilities, which is good reasoning, which is a good rule of thumb to follow when talking about smart people, because usually smart people don't brag about themselves being smart, and dumb people are usually the ones who brag about being smart. Of course there are some exceptions, but in general this is the case, because the smart people actually understand that maybe they're not really that smart, or maybe they're not really that, especially there are other people who have done great things, you know, but they tend to know like that there are many things that they don't know, and that they, you know, that they have limitations. So I suppose that covers my side, but it's not really a physics realization.
I guess. But I mean, unless you have another realization to discuss.
I guess I can talk about how the sun works.
That's a good idea.
So the sun undergoes so nuclear bombs undergo this process called fission energy, where basically you're smashing things into other things to, you know, to break things apart to create energy. But it turns out that you can actually create more energy by combining things. So they call that fusion, and nuclear bombs use fission, but they actually have created a fusion bomb by using a fission bomb to power the fusion bomb. But anyways, that's some complicated. Anyways, so how the sun works is it fuses up like smaller elements like helium, hydrogen into, you know, heavier elements until, well, I'm not sure if the sun does this, but usually stars fuse up to the heaviest element, which is iron, and then it stops, right? But the thing is, based on our data, it doesn't seem like the sun can undergo fusion in the temperature that it currently is at. And this doesn't make sense in the lens of classical physics, but when you take a look at it through quantum physics, where basically a particle just has a probability of being somewhere. So let's say this is the whole area that the particle can be. There's a certain probability of it being here. There's a certain probability of it being here, 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 here. It's just probabilities, and basically there's this large area where the particle's supposed to inhabit, you know. And the thing is, to do fusion, you need to push two things together, not, you know, like smash something or break something apart, just like push them two together so that they combine into one thing. You need them to be very close, and that requires a lot of energy because you know, they have a repelling force against one another, and that takes a lot of energy to oppose. So scientists are saying that there isn't enough energy, you know, in the sun's temperature to oppose that repulsion. But it turns out, because the way of quantum mechanics works and how all the how basically the particles are just probabilities of being in certain locations, there's a small probability that these particles have already collided with one another. So it's basically like two circles. Let's say this is the probability. Well, this is a very simplified explanation, but this is the area that one particle could be in. This is the area that one particle could be in. But the largest probability is in the middle, right? That's where they're most likely to be. But as they get closer, this is as far as the sun can push the two particles in. But as you see, there's this area in the middle where they sort of overlap each other. Even though the probability is very small, there is a possibility that they're already in contact with one another, and that sort of already causes the fusion to occur, even though it's not physically possible in the eyes of, you know, classical mechanics. So I think that's something very cool to think about when you look at the fusion of the sun or quantum mechanics in general. It's just you know, me attempting to explain something.
I guess it ties in with the limit of knowledge to some extent, with us not being able to observe these kind of things with our current availability of technology, or just, you know, general sense of
the fact that it's already set. I don't know that it's already set once you observe it. Okay.
Oh yeah. No. Actually, I had another realization just quickly, which is actually physics related this time. I mean, I actually kind of knew this already, but you want me to save it?
Save it.
Okay. Save it for next week. Save it. Okay. All right.
So song segment now. Have you listened to my songs or not?
Yeah, I have. I've listened to both of them.
Both of them while I was in the toilet.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I mean, one of them, of
You
course,
know,
I
the
already
anime
knew.
one. Did you listen to the anime?
I
one?
did. I listened to the first one because I already knew that one. The second one I didn't, so
Yeah.
I listened to that.
Okay, so let's talk about the
yeah.
first one, which is "Stranger in Moscow" by Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was one of my favorite artists in the past. I don't know about now, but he's still a good artist regardless. Like, he makes some really good music, and I think this is "Stranger in Moscow" is like one of those songs I just found recently. You know, my old, like, the songs I used to listen to were like Billie Jean and was it, like Bad and those kind of songs, but I didn't really understand their lyrics. I just thought they were like, you know, like vibe. But you know, "Stranger in Moscow," I just found it about a year ago, I would say, and I think it's my favorite Michael Jackson song, I would have to say. Not just because of like the instrumentation, the melody, that's all really good, but even though there aren't that many unique lyrics, I would say, like, the lyrics sort of like, you know, I sort of understand the lyrics and sort of what it's trying to say, and you know, I kind of like connect with the lyrics because it's talking about, like, you know, how when you're alone or like you're lonely or whatever, you're sad, it feels like you're a stranger in Moscow, and that's just basically like the whole idea. Like, you're off in a foreign land where it's cold, you're alone, you know, it's freezing, that kind of thing. It's just, the you know, Michael Jackson, I think Michael Jackson's trying to like connect those two phenomenon and describe one as the other, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what do you think of the song?
No, it was a classic. Love the song. I mean, of course, as a kid, when listening to it, I had no idea what the hell was happening, what he was talking about. It was just like, it was good. It was nice. It was just, like you said, it's good to like vibe with. But like, as we grow older, we listen to these music and we're like, you know, there's a deeper meaning to all these things. And it's like much more applicable to our lives now than it was back then. But nothing's changed. We're still listening.
But it's a very good song. I still like the vibe, like the oldies kind of vibe.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of theme I went with today as well.
Yeah, you can go ahead with yours, which both of them I have listened to.
Yeah, of course, I went with the first one. I went was Boney M's Rasputin. Of course, it was as a kid. Oh, dude. I don't know what's up with that song. It's so freaking good. Well, so Boney M is actually like the way I was introduced to Boney M is because I'm a Catholic, you see, and Boney M is a Christian. They used to make all these songs about Jesus and all these stuff. So as a family, every Christmas we used to put it on a speaker. We used to listen to their Christmas songs, and I went on YouTube, I think in like 2006 or something. Back then there was YouTube. Like, I was like, okay, let's see.
Like, I found this.
I'm gonna find Boney M songs. Just listen, and then I found Rasputin, and I was like, damn! That was just vibing every single day. I don't know what it means. Even now, I haven't listened to the lyrics because, like, to me, I don't want that.
Is it talking about some guy like It was talking about Rasputin.
He's talking about actual Rasputin, but it doesn't matter. Him as an individual is not the point. I like the song. Okay, I don't want to relate it to anything because, like,
it was very cool. Like, feeling, you know?
I like it to be what it was. Like, the moment you change something, there's a certainty that might affect whether you like it or not, right? Like, if I listen to it and end up finding out that it was actually talking about Hitler, I'm like, I don't like Hitler. I don't like the song anymore. You know? So I just wanted to remain the way it was. Well, yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Anyway, you go over to your second song.
I don't care about this dude. I don't want to ruin this song.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second song, I'm not even gonna bother pronouncing the name. It's one of the OSTs from Great Teacher Onizuka, which I think is a very good, very good anime, which will be my recommendation for this week to sort of like cut time, make sure, you know. But it basically talks about this guy. He was a delinquent, but he turns out to be like one of the best teachers because the lessons he teaches his students are like life lessons, and they're very applicable. Like, for example, like being honest with yourself, or I don't know. There's like many different lessons like that he teaches are, I think, very important lessons, and it's very emotional TV series. Also filled with comedy, so I think you should watch it. And this OST just like fits so well with the theme because it gives us like sort of like nostalgia, like you're chilling, like the sun's going down, and you're just like sort of triumphant kind of feeling. Like it's the song that usually plays like after he teaches one of his students a lesson, and he's just like this, and then the student's like, oh, like it's that kind of thing. It's they say he's a teacher, but it's more of like a greater role than that. He sort of became a mentor to these students, teaching them about life and sort of fixing the problems that they had. All
right. Good. I actually haven't watched this.
And anyway. You can go ahead with it.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna make sure this.
No, it's very old. It's very classic. So I think one of like this guy was getting bullied like by a bunch of girls. So he basically like fixed the situation, everything, and then he made the girl like honest, I suppose, like and then turns out the girl actually likes the guy, and then it's some complicated stuff, but there's a lot of comedy. It's really nice, and the lessons that he teaches are like absolutely top tier.
All right.
And
anyway,
go on to your second one.
I'll go on to my second one, which is commonly known as "Take on Me" by Aha. Take on me. I don't know, like I know the song has
you don't even have
meaning, but like I don't know what it really means. I mean, I can tell like it is like take a chance, kind of like take a chance on me, but like the song on its own, it's like it's a vibing kind of song, like I used to listen because like they used to put this song on when we used to go to malls and like the shopping malls. They used to have like the songs as like the speakers on the top, and I was like,
bro, no, they never did, man.
Really, they put it in PIM all the time here, and I mean that's one of the ways. Like, of course, I knew the song way before then, but like that just made me think about it again, and I was like, oh, actually, because I never, there's those songs where you hear, but you don't really know what they're called, and the only way you resonate with them is just by the main beat, and so like. The only part of the song I knew was like "Take on me" and then nothing else. Take on me, And then so like I used to go and so try to find the song, and once you find them, you're like, oh. And so I used to listen to it because it's just good vibing stuff. But honestly, just like the song previous to this, I never really listened to its connotations like I usually do, but I never did because like I just like it for what it is and what it meant to me a long time ago. So yeah.
Go, your TV show.
My TV show, yes. Well, actually, does it have to be a TV show or can it be a movie?
I don't care, movie, TV show, whatever.
Well, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but one of my favorite movies of all time is Christopher Nolan's Interstellar, man. Interstellar. Not Batman. Batman's good. But Batman. Interstellar is like, there's a different level. That film just... I think you could say, after watching that film, it brought my love for physics a bit higher. Of course, a lot of the stuff there was not really real. It was basically fiction. But like, I would say 40% of the movie was based on real physics. Yeah, it's a science fiction.
No, it's more than 50%. It's a majority.
Yeah, it is. Actually, like, the interesting thing is, because of the film, the physicist that was working with them, Kip Thorne, literally wrote a freaking book and found and like discovered a new area of physics that is used for these interstellar travel and this kind of. It was really interesting to see. I watched these documentaries on them. Even if you're not like a physics person or just don't really know about physics or stuff, it's just a really good story that just you can emotionally attach to. There's always this one scene where I always cry every time, no matter how many times I watch the film. There's always that one scene because you can relate to it that much, and I think it's much better if you just watch it instead of me explaining it. It's just I don't care. I'm not sure if you've watched it before. I think I know you haven't.
Only click on YouTube, my dude.
Yeah, but you like the film. You have to watch it.
I know it's good. But the thing that made me like physics more was Steins Gate.
Steins Gate. Oh my god, yes.
Oh, you did that,
Kevin. Right? You told me about that show, so bro. Oh my god.
It's so good. It's about time travel and physics and multiple universes. There's a I'm not gonna spoil it at all. I'm not even gonna say anything. Like, it's just super good. Like, it's a big brain anime. They talk about time travel, multiple universes. They talk about decrypting and sort of like what is the organization? CERN? Yeah,
CERN, and then they name it like
everything. Like, it's very interesting. I sort of prefer it because, well, I think Steins Gate is good, but I don't really like Steins Gate Zero.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the prequel / sequel or something like that. But no, but Steins Gate absolutely wonderful. And you know what's even more bomb movie than what you just said? 3 Idiots, fam.
Oh.
Nah, you can't beat that.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
Yeah. I guess that's it for this segment.
Movie
The next one, I don't know. Do you want to do video games or books? I think we only have time for one.
Up to you. Actually, this is actually pretty tough. Let's do video games actually, because we did books last week. Kev, you here?
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Of course I'm here.
No, because you kind of froze for me for a second. Because you were just like.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. I was gonna say video games. Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna start. Now, I'm not sure if a lot of people like this, but I'm kind of like generally used to FPSs. I think Kevin knows where I'm going at. For the past few weeks, I've been back at CS:GO. It's just a game where you could go back to and just play. Although it's really irritating sometimes because there's just idiots and trolls, and the game sometimes just makes you so angry. It kind of occupies me, and it's a pretty decent game because like it's something that you could play and get better at, and it's always just. It's nice to get back to. Just like Minecraft, like after a long time you can go back to it. CS is a game you could definitely go back to. And
after a long day.
Yeah, after a long day, go back home and just shoot a bunch of fools, It's nice, it's relaxing. And even if you're not good at the game, you can still enjoy it just as much, So I think it's a good recommendation.
I think that's more of a experience on my side as opposed to your side, so you can't really speak on my behalf. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry about that. Yeah, but you know what I meant.
Yeah. For me, game recommendation. I mean, I've been playing CS with you, and it's kind of fun, but then also like not fun when you're bad. But like, yeah, it's whatever. I don't know. I'm thinking of like good story games. Oh, I guess I can talk about all those good DS games that I used to play. Like, one of my favorite that I wish was. Okay, pick one or two.
Two.
Just pick a number.
Two.
Okay, fine. So I think the best Mario RPG, in my opinion, is Mario and Luigi Partners in Time.
Oh, that was a good game.
It deals with time, especially. Yeah, it's like part of the whole theme package. But I really love that game. Just like the fight mechanics in general, the story. I was really afraid of like the shroobs and like the purple, the alien dudes. It all fits so well into the theme, like aliens and like time travel.
Yeah.
It was really good. Like, and I was like, as a kid, when you play it, like it really gives you like this sort of tension feeling, and like they're actually evil, and it sort of makes you scared because you're like, oh no, are the shrooms coming? Whatever. Like, yeah, it's a pretty fun game, and then it also has a decent skill cap, like to be able to perform the special moves and everything. It's a pretty fun game, and resource management and all that. So yeah, just like a really good RPG overall, and
I think you guys would definitely enjoy that game.
So I will talk about other DS games because that's, I think, the console that I've played the most. But that's the one for today.
All right. Well then.
Is that it for this?
I guess that is
podcast?
pretty much it for today's podcast. I have to say it has been a very, very fun journey to make these things. I don't know how we're gonna do with these this guest thing, if we're gonna have it every other week or what's gonna happen, but
we'll figure it out.
When we figure it out, it'll be pretty awesome. And we really enjoyed having Halcyon last week, and today was an interesting day as well. Again, I always love talking about these kind of stuff. It's good, especially it occupies you in times like these, keeps you active, and doesn't make your brain go like squishy or anything like that. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to say.
Squishy, though.
Squishy. I mean, you know what I mean. So that's exactly what I'm saying. You see what I mean? All
Very
right.
nice. Okay, well, that's the end of it for this week. Just check out any of the links below for if you liked any of the content that we mentioned. Check out our
It's always
respective
in
YouTube
every other
channels.
podcast. Everything we mention here is
I
always
post
in the description below.
physics videos sometimes.
Yeah.
He posts gaming videos. Subscribe, like, comment, all that regular stuff. And peace out.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
End it off here.
Yeah. Peace out.
You guys.